He's been viral actually in the past few weeks.
Yeah. So what was it? Because you brought it to my attention. You said something about you got to get a vasectomy
Yeah,
to be a high value man.
so he had like a tweet, right? And there was actually it wasn't just a podcast. There was a whole bunch of reaction videos that were discussing about that the fact that he discussed he had a tweet that was saying basically to have a fast track to become a high value man, you should do blah 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 X and Y. And then there was this one thing that stood out, right? Which was getting a vasectomy when you're young in your 20s. So this tweet was supposed to target people that were in their early 20s to have a fast track way of becoming a high value man. So a lot of people were kind of like calling him out. One of them being Sneako, calling him out on the fact that, if you're really a red pill person that's promoting, family values, that family is really important, why would you kind of like go against that, right? Why would you advise? And that's another thing. He didn't want to admit that was advice.
You sent me a video where he was debating people and he wasn't really able to defend
Oh, yeah.
his take. What was it? Destiny and Sneako were ganging up on him. I don't want to use the word ganging up because it seemed more like they were angry that, yo, you said this and you're saying get a vasectomy to be a high value man, but now you're not even able to define what a high value man is.
Yeah, so that was on the Fresh and Fit podcast. They had Sneako and they had Destiny on. And Rollo Tomassi popped out of nowhere, kept commenting on the podcast, saying, "Oh, if you want, I'll jump on the podcast." Blah blah blah.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then long and behold, he jumps on the podcast
he
and
got thrashed. Bro.
Yeah,
he got thrashed,
and it was kind of crazy because they were asking him really simple questions, which was, "What is a high value man?"
And somebody, and not to cut you off, but somebody who's been in that space for as long as they have. You would think that they would have a definition for what a high value man is. I want to put you on the spot now, Jay. All right. What is your definition of a high value man?
So my definition of a high value
Ladies
man,
and gentlemen, this is live and unedited.
Yeah. So I might miss a couple points here and there, but
no. What's your definition from your experience?
A high value man is someone that's respected by his peers, someone that has a skill set, right, and is able to provide value to the world, and the world validates that value. Also, the basics, provide, protect, like that's basic man stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. And even if not everybody agrees with you, nobody can deny that at the very minimum, those are qualities of a high value man. How Rollo Tomassi was not able to answer that question was kind of baffling to me.
Yeah.
And not be able to. So my definition of a high value man, which I actually wanted to talk about this last week, is you got to go off the foundation of what a man's role is, right? Protect and provide, right? Obviously, you have two men. One has a job, he feeds his family, he houses them. He's protecting, he's providing, and obviously, if a thief breaks in, he's able to protect them, right?
Yeah,
that's a regular, that's a guy. Another guy has a job, right? But his job like you said, brings value to the world. Turns out he brings value to the world, or society, and society.
Rewards
him by paying him a high wage, right? Now, this man can provide not just for his family, but to his employer and to society. So they'll say, well,
which actually makes other people respect him.
Right, exactly. So man A, who has a regular job, nothing wrong with that, of course, he's able to provide for his family by giving food and shelter, right? Man B, however, right, he's able to provide for his family, but not just provide, he's able to provide a bigger shelter. He's able to provide better quality stuff to his children, better schools, better resources, puts him in an environment that's way better. So man B is a higher value man than man A based on what he's able to bring. So in terms of protection, man A, he can probably fight off a fighter, but man B, his value is so high that he doesn't even have to get his hands dirty. Man B can pay for security. Man B can pay to put his family in an environment that's already protected. If you go off the foundation of what it means to be a man, which is protect and provide, a high value man is a man who's able to protect and provide at higher levels and more efficient in the context of the West. If you lived in a village where it was a fisherman village, right? It was a fishing village. A high value man would just be the equivalent of a guy who's able to catch a lot of fish because he's doing something that's valuable to his tribe or society. You know what I mean? That's like, I feel like that was such a simple thing.
Damn, bro, that was pretty fast and simple. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what
why don't you write a book?
The irrational male.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, that was I don't know how I don't know if he didn't want to answer it,
No, no,
or he legit didn't know.
I think it was 100%. I'm not even gonna doubt this or say maybe he didn't want to answer because of blah blah blah. No, I know for a fact he probably didn't want to answer it because of the fact that he knew he would contradict himself, and because they kept asking him that hey, if you are advising, even though he kept saying that it wasn't advice, he said that it's something that you take it the way you want to take it, kind of like washing his hands. You know what I
Nah,
mean?
but that's the thing too. A high value man, you're a high value man to your family and to society. Key word there is being family. If you get a vasectomy,
Exactly.
if you get a vasectomy and you don't have a family, you know, you you can't. Can you really be considered a high value man to your? You don't have a family to protect and to provide for. You
Exactly.
know what I mean?
And they were throwing statistics out there. They were bringing up they were bringing up the topic that if you get a vasectomy, it's reversible, blah blah blah, and this and that.
That was such a not
That was a
good.
weak argument.
That was such a bad
Comeback.
advice.
Yeah.
Just advice. You don't tell people to get a vasectomy.
It's dangerous, man. There's a lot of people that just don't come back from it. Not only that, statistics shows that every year you actually it becomes less and less like successful to reverse.
He should have walked that back. He
vasectomy.
should have just said, "Hey, look, I thought one thing and now I believe the other.
Yeah.
My bad." But yo,
And I think that's also part of being a high value man, to admit when you're wrong. Because if you don't, you don't grow. You stay in the same place. See, I was wrong. You know what?
Exactly.
I messed up, and I don't agree.
exactly. You know what I mean? Better advice would have been, "Hey, if you want to be a high value man in the future, use protection when you're engaging in intimate acts with women. If you're gonna engage in intimate acts with women, even with protection, make sure there are women, right, who you can see having your kid." You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
that's exactly what Sneako said.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah,
there we go.
he said that he's like, why don't you just make sure that the woman you're sleeping with, there might be a consequence at the end that you might get her pregnant, and you should be
Right.
okay with that.
Right. It's like, hey, you're having, intimate relations with this woman. Make sure that this is a woman that if she did end up pregnant, is somebody who you could at least see yourself having a kid with. Even if even if you guys might not end up being together, which I don't know why you're doing that to with somebody you don't even have any intentions of being together with and running the risk of having a pregnancy. I don't know why you would do that.
Yeah.
But being a high value man, you got to take it within the context of what's a man's role traditionally is to protect and provide. A high value man is a man who can protect and provide efficiently and at high levels, like I've stated earlier. He doesn't have to get his hands dirty. He has security guards. He doesn't, you don't have to worry about the environment you're in. He puts you in a good environment. Society deems that what he does for society is high value and pays him to his pay reflects his contributions or what society considers high value contributions.
Yeah.
All this stuff was like straightforward.
Now, I would also add to that. I know that you mentioned that if the guy is at a certain point where he could just pay for security, but also the fact that if everything was taken away from him, he still has the basics there, right? He could still provide and
he
protect.
has the skills.
Yeah.
He has a skill set that he can rebuild that all over again.
Yeah.
So obviously man A who's just a regular, who has a regular job, doesn't have high value skills, right? If his stuff were to be taken away, he'd have a much harder time bouncing back than a high value man with, connections, like you said, high value connections,
Yeah,
high value
networking.
skills, things like that. So for anybody wondering, I think that's a pretty solid definition of what a high value man is.
And of course, there's people that could add on to it.
And keep in mind this definition of what a high value man is more of in context of the West, what's expected in the West. You know what I mean? Again, different societies. A high value man might be somebody who can run the fastest because he's able to catch prey. If hunting societies, a man who can
Yeah.
run the fastest, he's a high value man because he can bring insecure food a lot better and a lot more efficient than other people. So
Yeah, I agree. And another thing that I was surprised when I was watching this, it was just
they were going in on
they were
that
they were
guy.
they were not only going in on him. Well, during this podcast, man, like fresh and fit, and then this guy, the fresh guy, Walter, he kept like giggling and laughing every single time. Sneako would say something. He's like, Sneako, like, like in a way, he was like telling like, yo, why, like, yo, bro, like, why are you questioning him? Like, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
in my mind, I was like, yo, dude, like, you saw the fear, and they were hesitating on like saying anything.
The thing is, right, and I don't like what the manosphere has turned into, because if somebody were to say, hey, this environment, right, guys, and by the way, we're not part of the manosphere, guys, we're commenting, we're commentating on
Yeah.
what's going on. if
We're
you're
just we're just men.
Yeah, if you're telling me like, hey, the point of the manosphere is to help men, right? And somebody is giving out advice that we don't think is good advice, and we're having a discussion, that's not a laughing matter, right? You have a whole bunch of guys who are listening to you, who are kind of hanging off every word you say with the advice you're giving them, right? And you can't have somebody giving bad advice to men. It's not funny when you're discussing something that men are gonna follow. That's not a laughing matter. There's something high value man. Clearly, you guys don't know what that is, right? We gotta hash this stuff out so that we can keep giving good advice to the men who are listening to our channels. If we are the channel that we say we are in terms of trying to help men, but they're not that. There's a facade. They're not that.
Yeah. So I mean, eventually they did have another episode, and he did give the definition of what he thought a high value man was to him.
What was his definition ultimately?
I'm not gonna like. I don't remember, to be honest. It was more like it's kind of like what we mentioned. You know, validated by your peers,
Generic.
provide and protect and all this other stuff. But in my mind, it was like, okay, he. I guess at that point he couldn't answer the question because he got caught in a way that he would be contradicting himself when it comes to family, and so what
Yeah.
he did, I maybe he needed time to come back and whatever, like
That's another thing
find a
too, man.
solution or
And
something.
stand on what you said that and you believe in that. Stand on what you believe and
Yeah.
defend it and say why you believe that. At the end of the day, you don't have to be right. You know what I mean? It's not about being right. It's about this is what I believe is this. Here's why I believe in it. I'm open to changing it, but not at the moment. Right now, I have to defend why I believe in it. And in the
Yeah.
future, I might come back and say, hey, you know what? This Destiny guy was right. Sneako was right, or whatever the case is.
Yeah,
But
I think that's not in his DNA, bro. Like he can't admit if he's wrong. He can't admit that he maybe what he said kind of contradicts his whole like belief system or his own like rational book
yeah, I
thing.
think I think when guys are placed in positions of like de facto leadership, where people look at them, anytime that they admit that they're wrong, is a questioning. Is it
But does it show weakness or
well,
something?
not so much weakness, but it calls into question their abilities to
Oh, okay.
lead. Like maybe this guy doesn't really know what he's doing. Maybe we should follow
Yeah.
somebody else. So when somebody admits that they're wrong in that sense, people will start saying, I don't know, this guy doesn't seem sure of himself now. And so that's when that I think that's what I'm not saying Rollo Tomassi is afraid of that, but I think that seems to be the case a lot of the times, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, Myron, it seemed like Myron was at least less of a fence sitter than Walter was. Myron was like, well, this is my definition. Here's what
Yeah.
I think, blah blah. But dude, when somebody says like, if you were to say something and I was like, oh, well, why do you believe that? You should be able to tell me why.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even if it's wrong, you should at least be able to say, here's why I think that. And and by the way, guys, notice how the definition of a high value man, none of it including having as much uh, uh, intimate relationships with women as possible. Notice how that wasn't even part of the definition.
Yeah.
Because it's been known from the beginning of the beginning of the beginning of the manosphere that women are a byproduct of your success, not the end result.
Yeah. So that's another thing that they brought up. The whole advice that Myron gave, which was basically you should sleep with at least 50 women, so that way, women, so that way, you're able to, I guess, tell the difference between who's a hoe and is not a hoe. And then Sneako and Destiny were commenting on the fact that it doesn't take that many like you don't have to sleep with that amount of women to like find out that
Yeah.
it's a hoe or not.
Yeah, I don't know if can you say that word on YouTube?
Yeah,
Okay. Well, sweet, less editing work. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. You should kind of be able to know, right? You're telling people to sleep with this many women. So that when women sleep with a lot of men, it's not good, obviously, for their pair bonding and stuff like that. When men sleep with a lot of women, what a lot of people don't know, or maybe they don't admit it, is that when men sleep with a lot of women, you're also desensitizing yourself to women in
yeah,
a way. You're desensitizing yourself to them. So when you do get somebody that you're serious with, it's cool for a little bit, but then after a while, it becomes real stale real quick because it's the same thing over and over and over and over again. So I wouldn't even give an advice to sleep with a lot of women. I wouldn't give that kind of advice. But
yeah. I agree on that as well.
I mean, again, people might have different opinions. I don't care. I don't care. You
Yeah,
know. Yeah, but I think Rollo Tomassi, I think the red pill space, the manosphere space in general, has been co-opted and has become a caricature of what it originally was. Because I remember back in the day, the red pill space was, hey, you're a man, society is rigged against men. That's what they're saying. Here's what you should do as a man: lift weights, get jacked, take your personal appearance seriously, maintain frame, always work to improve yourself. You should always be working to improving yourself, whether it's leveling up at work, leveling up at your job, leveling up, same thing, reading, all these things, constantly being reading, constantly be improving yourself, right? Know how to say no. Have a spine, right? Don't be mean. Just say no. Know how to say no. Eventually, it evolved into like guys yelling at women on their talk shows and kicking them out, and now it just becomes a joke. I think the red pill initially was a good place to help men initially, not now, but men who didn't have fathers. This was before Jordan Peterson became as big as he did.
Yeah.
Men who didn't have fathers, they found the red pill space where guys are telling them like, "Yo, you're like this, and it's your fault." That's the bad news. But the good news is, it's your responsibility. It's your fault. You can fix it. Here's how you fix it. Boom, 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 and they start doing that.
Yeah. Now it's more about like like monetizing on it.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
That's another thing too, right? So now I